The fight between ZG and Koga begins, with us seeing Koga's further improvements after his recent training with Kanogito and Wulong, and potentially hinting at some other training he did while he was part of Purgatory during the recent time skips. However, Koga demonstrated he can now kinda use pre-initiative. This is what he did. He set up his strike before Zia started moving. Himuro points out that he still needs to get the timing down, but he's at a point where he can try it out. However, something to consider is that it may not be pre-initiative, it could very well be offensive foresight. This is the panel of offensive foresight of Kuroki using it against Rei in Kengan Ashura. It's pretty much the same thing that Koga did here against Zia G. However, it can also be interpreted as him using a form of pre-initiative. We know previously in his Kokoro fight he used post-initiative. Considering this panel and how they all show him on one page, it would make more sense for him to use pre-initiative or beginning to use it after training with two masters of it, Kano and Wulong. Also keep note that foresight and pre-initiative are linked together. Something I wasn't too happy about is it was Himuro talking about this. I would have much preferred if it was Oma. He's watching the fight as well. He's a confirmed user of pre-initiative. If he was the one explaining it, it would have been better than someone like Himuro, who we don't know and most likely doesn't, but Himuro has been getting a lot of love in Omega. He beat up Zia G a few chapters ago, and considering what Zia G did against Akoya and Roki, it may actually mean Himuro is the underrated god I've kind of been memeing about for a while now, but it may end up being a reality. We have to wait and see in future fights from Himuro. But before I continue, if you're a fan of Kengan, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That's what I provide on this channel, Mysterious Weeb. Also leave a like, it's greatly appreciated. Probably the most important reveal during Kengan Omega chapter 157 is Zia G and Yan's flashback. Zia G was the one who actually ordered the assassination of the previous head of the worm, him and Yan's father, which is pretty badass, have to admit. With him being considered the chosen one, I get the sense he was given that title by himself. It wasn't anyone else telling him that, but it could be linked into his whole potential thing and skill he's now showcasing. But the one who actually chooses the head of the worm seems to be the connector, and he chose Yan. Something also to consider is Yan points out that the worm isn't a nepotistic organization, meaning they don't really pick favorites or pick people like in relation to a previous head, such as them being the son or Yan being the son of the previous head. That shouldn't really be a factor, with Wulong assuring him that Yan is the most qualified person among us, so him being the son of the previous head wasn't a factor going into his choice. So this whole situation leaves many questions. Who is the connector? Like, honestly, he chooses the head of the worm, as he says, I appoint you as the next head. It wasn't like like a group decision or anything like that. It was himself, at least according to the translation here. Is his role to train the head of the worm as he was chilling alongside Yan in their big reveal? He seems to be an absolute monster when it comes to fighting, as Zia G has shown to be quite confident even though he's been running away in recent fights. Also being shown to be very powerful, and I'll talk more about this later in today's video. But when he was around the connector and Yan, especially the connector Wulong, he saw himself as pretty much nothing, that Wulong could just kill him in an instant and Zia G couldn't do anything about it. And even the whole situation when he was talking to Yan, or the direct subordinates brought Zia G to Yan, he was kinda acting like himself until Wulong appeared and Zia G got absolutely stunned and changed quite a bit. The most common theory throughout the fandom now about Wulong's purpose is, as his title suggests, the connector. Connecting to the Tiger Nico, who's part of Worm but his own branch, a powerhouse in his own regard, and connects to the Westwood faction, Edward Wu or Gilbert Wu now. He's the connector of the three organizations, as potentially someone above it. However, in this flashback as well, when Wulong appointed Yan as the new head of the worm, Yan also responded with this: how come it's my responsibility? Shouldn't you be taking it instead? So Wulong could have been the head of the worm as well, but he didn't appoint himself or something like that. See, a lot of confusing stuff that we don't really know about. However, all of this explains more about ZG's character, why he wants to be head of the worm, and why he's kinda triggered all the time. So yeah, That's all cool, I'm glad that finally got covered. Now going back to the fight itself, we got insight of what Zyuji's actually planning. He's going to take Koga hostage and use him to somehow take Oma as a prisoner, then return to the organization, the worm, with his head held high. Saying all of that won't be a problem as he has an ace up his sleeve, seems to have like some string or wire in his mouth. Maybe some weapon, I have no idea, that's probably something that's going to be explored later on. But all of this also means he really isn't taking the fight serious, his head is somewhere else. And that probably connects to how Koga begins a fight by beating up Zyuji as he's focusing on other things that he's planning to do. But he does yet again pull out another weapon. Man might be a user of the Unlimited Blade Works from the Fate verse at this point. But Himuro, I guess, confirms his hunch about Zyuji having the Superman syndrome, which is officially confirmed by the narrator and everything like that. But Himuro thinks that's the case still. Connecting to his durability, being able to pretty much shake off Koga's powerful blow with absolute ease. Again, all this stuff about Zyuji and how much the Superman syndrome plays into him being strong does help out our boy Wakatsuki, who has a higher mutation or density of it, however you want to explain it. But Oma during this chapter says something pretty interesting. Even though Koga was shown to be the dominating one during this fight, he says right now Zyuji is stronger than current Koga, and that Zyuji is actually big trouble and that he wished he was Koga. In my initial reaction to the chapter, I was very confused about that line from Oma, "I wish I were you, Koga." I think that means Oma is excited or wanting to fight Zyuji due to Zyuji being so powerful, which is huge for Zyuji, but let me know your thoughts on that down below as well. I wasn't 100% sure on that whole inner monologue from Oma, as it could also mean he's praising Koga in this situation, that regardless of Zyuji being very strong, he's beating up him. And I'm still hoping we get the flashback of the fight between Koga and Oma before the recent time skip, something we got cucked out on. But while Koga's beating up Zyuji, he talks about a kung fu artist way stronger than Zyuji, of course talking about Wulong Chen. As we know, during the recent time skips, Koga was part of Purgatory. He most likely did some training alongside Dong Chen and the other Purgatory gladiators, and I guess confirming that right now, at least when you consider Oma's statement as well, he isn't stronger than Lu Dong, and he doesn't consider Zyuji stronger than him as well, which is good for Lu Dong as well, but kinda, unfortunate news for current Okoye, who's been, done dirty recently, and I do think his whole story is coming to an end, even though I've been saying that for like over a year at this point. I know a few people are going to start saying that Koga is stronger than Ryuki due to him beating up Zyuji this chapter or being the dominating one in the fight so far. Again, Garuki is someone very hard to gauge. He didn't really land the blow on Zyuji even while using his Gao style techniques and fighting alongside Okoye, but again, Garuki's whole potential thing mainly comes out when he's bloodlusted. Even though he was trying to kill Zyuji, he wasn't like enraged or anything like that, and he is probably one of the hardest characters to gauge when he's going all out. I wouldn't really compare Koga to Garuki or make a fair comparison yet, considering Garuki's situation and how he's kind of been done dirty in the story recently as well. As someone who's meant to be the protagonist alongside Koga, I do want more from him at some point very shortly. But the fight itself, we have Zyuji almost landing a dread kick on Koga, so he's still in the fight. He may be getting hit quite a bit, but he's shown to be an absolute tank. That's been shown throughout the whole series ever since his introduction, so it's going to take a lot of blows for Koga to take him out. And I'm guessing next chapter it's going to be more so Zyuji taking the advantage, going more all out, or being more serious in the fight, I guess, and pushing Koga. We'll have to wait and see, but that's everything for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Check out the other stuff in the description, like the Discord, etc. And shout out to the Mad Lads who support the channel via the Patreon. But yep, that's it guys. Peace.